What would you do if your spouse said those exact words to you in a ballroom full of people? If the person you built up, supported, and loved publicly humiliated you, then kissed another man right in front of your eyes? This is the story of Alexander Sterling, a man who was mocked, disrespected, and thrown away like trash by the woman he spent years lifting up. But what she didn't know was that the quiet man she embarrassed held more power than anyone in that room could imagine. By the end of this video, you'll witness the most calculated, legally bulletproof takedown in corporate history. You'll see how silence, dignity, and strategic patience can become the deadliest weapons. And you'll understand why respect isn't just important in marriage, it's everything. But before we dive in, I need to be real with you. This video took over 18 hours to research, write, script, and produce. I spent days verifying details, crafting this narrative, and ensuring every word hit the way it needed to. If you appreciate the work that goes into bringing stories like this to life, stories that make you feel something real, please hit that subscribe button. It genuinely keeps this channel going and allows me to keep delivering content that digs deeper than surface-level drama. Now let's get into it. Alexander straightened his posture, eyes calm, breath steady. The band attempted to save the atmosphere, playing louder, trying to distract from the tension thickening in the air. But the damage had already been done. People weren't dancing anymore. They were watching, whispering, nudging each other as if they'd been handed front-row tickets to the most scandalous moment of the year. Victoria didn't try to walk away quietly. She thrived on spectacle. She always had. The more eyes on her, the louder she became. And right now, she was intoxicated by the attention, by the fact that for once, Alexander wasn't the center of her universe. She wanted to prove something, to herself, to everyone, to him. She turned to the crowd with a smirk, raising her voice just enough to guarantee no one would miss it. "You know what?" she said, tapping the microphone on a nearby stand. "If I'm going to kiss anyone tonight, it's going to be someone who actually excites me." People gasped. Others leaned forward. A buzz of anticipation rippled across the ballroom. Alexander, still motionless on the dance floor, watched her with unreadable eyes. He wasn't angry. He wasn't panicking. He wasn't begging. He simply watched, which unsettled Victoria more than any outburst could have. She thought humiliation would break him. Instead, his silence made him feel untouchably powerful. Victoria snapped her fingers dramatically. "Damien," she called, tilting her head toward the entrance. "Come join me, baby." Several heads whipped to the doorway. A tall, handsome man in a wine-colored blazer stepped into view, his stride confident, his smile smug. Damien Cross, tall, fit, square jaw, expensive haircut, wearing a burgundy blazer and a watch that cost more than most people's rent. He wasn't an employee of Silverline Innovations. He wasn't part of Victoria's corporate circle. He wasn't invited by anyone but her. He was a manager at another firm entirely, one she had been seeing behind Alexander's back for months. And tonight, Victoria had decided to bring him into their marriage space just to make a point. Damien strutted toward the stage with a smirk, straightening his blazer like he was preparing for a photo shoot. The audacity alone sent a ripple of disbelief through the crowd. Victoria grabbed Damien's tie and kissed him like she wanted the whole ballroom to witness her rebellion. The crowd gasped. Phones rose. Laughter spilled around them like broken glass. But as Victoria's lips pressed against another man's mouth, Alexander went still. So still, the world around him seemed to slow down. The music dimmed. Conversations muted. Even the bright ballroom lights softened into a blur. And in that strange, suspended moment, a memory, no, a lifetime, opened inside him. It began with his mother. He could still see her hands, thin, cracked from years of scrubbing floors, wiping tables, cleaning strangers' messes. Hands that held his face gently, even when her own world was breaking. Amelia Sterling, too young, too hopeful, punished for loving the wrong man and for carrying a child her family refused to accept. "Get out," her father had said. "You are no daughter of mine," her mother had whispered. The door slammed behind her, and she never walked back in. Alexander watched his mother work herself into exhaustion day after day, in cheap motels, diners, laundromats. Yet she smiled at him every night as if she hadn't spent the day wiping away other people's filth. "You're my miracle," she always said, brushing his hair back. "One day you'll build something beautiful." He remembered cold winters, sleeping on worn couches. He remembered helping her count tips at midnight. He remembered her humming songs to hide the sound of her crying. And then he remembered her death. The hospital's hallway smelled of bleach and grief. She held his hand and whispered, "Don't hate them. Just live better than they ever did. Build your own world, sweetheart." She died with his name on her lips. At her funeral, Alexander realized he was alone. Truly alone. No relatives, no friends, just the memory of her love and the echo of her sacrifices. Then months later a letter arrived. Then a phone call. Then a car sent to pick him up. Her family, his grandparents, were old now, frail, grim with regret. They confessed everything. The shame, the guilt, the years spent wondering where their daughter had gone, whether she was alive, whether she had forgiven them. They wanted to make amends before death took them too. Their repentance came with a paper trail, wills, property titles, corporate documents. Silverline Innovations, a multi-billion-dollar company, a family legacy. And in a conference room filled with lawyers, his grandparents transferred every single share to him. Their guilt crystallized into ownership. He became, overnight, the largest shareholder in the entire corporation. The board wanted him as chairman. He refused. "I want a design," he said. "I want a life that looks like mine, not yours. Choose someone trustworthy to run the company. I'll stay in the shadows." And so he lived quietly, deliberately, peacefully, creating, designing, building the kind of life his mother always wanted for him. For years no one knew his net worth. No one knew his influence. No one knew he could bring an entire executive floor to its knees with a single call. Not even Victoria. Especially not Victoria. Especially not Victoria. The present came roaring back as Victoria moaned into Damien's mouth, clutching his blazer. The ballroom cheered, whistled, and laughed. Every sound a nail driven deeper into the coffin of their marriage. Alexander blinked, the memory settling inside him like armor. He didn't feel heartbreak. He felt clarity. The same clarity he felt when he watched his mother walk away from everything she knew and rebuild a life from ashes. The same clarity he felt when he inherited the power to make or break an empire. The same clarity he felt when he promised himself he would never allow anyone, family, enemies, or lover, to disrespect the life he had bled to build. Victoria finally pulled away from Damien's lips, her lipstick smudged, chest rising and falling with the thrill of humiliation she believed she'd inflicted. Alexander unlocked his phone with a quiet swipe, found a single contact, pressed call. Victoria scoffed. "Who are you calling, Alexander?" He raised the phone to his ear, eyes locked on hers, expression unreadable. The call connected. "Hello." A woman's voice answered. In a voice steady enough to slice marble, Alexander said, "With immediate effect, I want Victoria Sterling fired." Okay, pause for a second. If you were Alexander, would you have done the same thing? Or would you have handled it differently? Drop your honest thoughts in the comments. I'm genuinely curious. Gasps burst around the room. Alexander didn't shout. He didn't explain. He didn't justify. He hung up and slipped the phone back into his pocket with the silence of a man who had just awakened the power he spent years hiding. The ballroom held its breath. Alexander wasn't reacting to humiliation. He was ending an era. The ballroom buzzed with disbelief. Raw, nervous, disorganized disbelief. Guests whispered behind champagne glasses, behind folded programs, behind trembling fingers. Some laughed awkwardly. Others stared at Alexander with wide eyes. Victoria blinked rapidly, trying to laugh the moment off. "You're unbelievable," she scoffed, brushing her hair back as if she were flicking away a bad joke. "You really think you're a big shot?" Her voice stopped because Alexander wasn't looking at her anymore. He wasn't looking at Damien. He wasn't even looking at the crowd. He was standing with the stillness of a judge delivering a sentence. Calm, in control, detached from the chaos he had already predicted. The ballroom erupted in whispers. What did he say? He fired her? Is he drunk? He doesn't have that kind of power. Wait, he called HR directly? Victoria forced a laugh, louder this time, manic around the edges. "Everyone relax," she said, waving her hand as if dismissing schoolchildren. "Alexander likes theatrics. You know how dramatic he is. He's just a mere designer, nothing more." Dramatic. That word landed like dust on stone. Alexander didn't flinch. He simply stepped back from the microphone and watched the room behave exactly like people do when they smell blood. Some people laughed nervously. Some moved away from Victoria as if distance would protect them from whatever was about to happen. A few, very few, looked at Alexander with growing unease. Damien cleared his throat, straightening his blazer, attempting to salvage the spotlight. "Babe," he whispered to Victoria, "maybe we should step outside." "No," she snapped. "He's trying to embarrass me. I'm not giving him the satisfaction." And as the laughter around them rippled, Alexander's mind slipped, not backward in surrender but backward into memory, into the truth she never bothered to ask about. The memory came like a wave. The first time Victoria applied for Silverline, she got rejected. She came home crying, angry, frustrated, calling the company heartless for overlooking her potential. Alexander held her while she sobbed into his chest. "They didn't even give me an interview," she said. "They said I don't have enough experience." He stayed silent, not because he didn't care, but because he knew what he would do next. The next morning he walked into the same building she believed had rejected her, through a private elevator, escorted by security who knew him by name, straight to the executive floor. He entered the boardroom where directors rose to greet him. "Mr. Sterling," the chairman said warmly, "to what do we owe the pleasure?" Alexander placed her resume on the table. "I want her employed," he said. "Entry level. Let her earn the rest." They didn't question him. They didn't hesitate. They didn't discuss. They obeyed. And Victoria received a surprising callback the next day. An interview she thought she earned herself. He remembered standing outside the building during her interview, leaning against his car, waiting to celebrate with her. When she came out smiling, believing she had been chosen for her talent, he didn't correct her. He wanted her to grow. He wanted her to shine. He wanted her to feel capable. And she did, for a while. When she wanted new clothes for her job, he worked longer nights designing custom projects to afford them. When she wanted a better car to look the part, he sold a rare antique drafting table that belonged to his mother. When she wanted a vacation with her new colleagues, he quietly paid the difference she didn't know she owed. He helped her climb every rung of the ladder while she loosened the bolts under his feet. He remembered her promotion, how she bragged to friends about how her boss finally recognized her brilliance. She never knew the truth. She never knew Alexander had walked into another board meeting, slid printed performance stats her way and said, "She deserves more. Give her a shot." She never knew the board voted yes because of him. She never knew her salary bump came from a directive he signed quietly. She never knew her new office existed because he requested a renovation budget. She never knew that every step upward she credited to her charm came from his shadow. And now she stood in the ballroom humiliating him, calling him beneath her, telling him he didn't meet her standards. The memory burned through him like a controlled fire. He inhaled deeply and looked at her, not with anger, not with pain, but with the silent recognition of a man who finally saw the truth. She never loved him. She loved what he provided. She loved what she thought she earned. She loved her reflection, not the man holding the mirror. The present snapped back around him. Damien had disappeared from her side. Guest still whispered. Victoria stood stiff, arms crossed, trying to hide her shaking hands. "You can't do anything, Alexander," she said. "You're embarrassing yourself. You don't have power here." Alexander blinked slowly. Then he reached for his phone again. "Come. Steady. Final." The ballroom watched. What is he doing now? He's calling someone else. This guy is really losing his mind. He thinks he's a CEO. Alexander dialed a second number and put it on speaker. It connected instantly. "This is Chairman Ellis," the voice answered. "Who is?" "It's Alexander," he said simply. Silence crackled across the ballroom. Then the chairman's voice straightened with respect. "Mr. Sterling, sir." Victoria's heart dropped. "I want every board member in the ballroom within 10 minutes, Alexander said quietly. "Yes, sir." Immediately. He ended the call. The ballroom froze. Victoria's phone buzzed once, then again, then a third time. The sound was small, barely audible beneath the murmurs, but the timing was catastrophic. She tried to ignore it, but the phone buzzed harder, an urgent, persistent vibration. With a huff, she pulled her phone out of her purse. The screen lit her face. Incoming call, HR Director, Silverline Innovations. Her smile died. The color drained from her cheeks, leaving her face a shade too pale for the warm ballroom lights. Her chest tightened as she slowly pressed the green button. "Hello," she managed. The room remained silent, waiting. Guests leaned in. Some stepped closer. Others held their breath. A beat. Then another. Then Victoria's face collapsed into horror. The HR director's voice was loud enough that those closest could hear the words spilling through the phone. "Mrs. Sterling, you are fired." Victoria trembled so violently her phone nearly slipped from her hand. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no. This has to be a mistake. What are you talking about? I just got promoted." Whispers spread like wildfire. He did fire her. What is happening? This can't be real. Who is he? Does he have that kind of power? Victoria staggered backward, bumping into Damien's chest. He tried to steady her, but she shook him off, her mind scrambling to make sense of the impossible. The ballroom hummed with attention so sharp it felt like electricity crawling through the air. Every guest could sense that something irreversible had just been set in motion. They didn't understand it. They didn't know why the chairman had addressed Alexander as Sir. They didn't know why Alexander had the authority to summon the entire board and get Victoria fired. But they knew one thing: this wasn't a joke. This wasn't a meltdown. This was power. Power wearing a quiet man's face. Victoria stood there trembling, her mascara smearing as she tried to keep her composure. She opened her mouth to say something, anything, but nothing came. Her lips quivered like someone trying to hold in a scream. People stared, whispers rolling like waves through the ballroom. Why would the chairman call him sir? Who is he? Why is the board coming? This is bigger than marriage drama. Oh God, what did she do? Victoria finally found her voice. Alexander, please. You didn't mean that call, right? You didn't mean it. He didn't look at her. He looked at his watch. 10 minutes had already passed. The doors at the back of the ballroom swung open and security stepped in first. Dressed in tailored black suits, earpieces glowing faint blue as they scanned the room with precise movements. Someone gasped. Someone dropped their drink. Someone clutched their pearls as if witnessing royalty. Behind the security team came the chairman, Chairman Ellis, a man who rarely appeared at social company functions, a man employees saw maybe once a year if they were lucky, a man feared and respected in equal measure. He walked in briskly, flanked by directors, CFOs, senior advisors, and several of the company's most powerful decision-makers. They wore stern, focused expressions, not confused ones. They didn't look surprised. They looked summoned. They approached the center of the ballroom. And then it happened. In front of Victoria. In front of every guest. In front of the cameras that had been recording the scandal moments before. Chairman Ellis stopped in front of Alexander and bowed his head. Mr. Sterling, he said quietly. We came as fast as we could. The entire ballroom recoiled in shock. Gasps, whispers, wide eyes, hands covering mouths. Damien, half hidden behind a pillar, stood frozen, horrified. Alexander nodded once. Thank you. The board members followed suit, offering respectful greetings. Mr. Sterling, sir. Good evening, Mr. Sterling. Victoria's knees buckled. She stumbled forward. Her hand reached for the table to stop her fall. No, she whispered. No, no, no. This can't be real. Engagement question number 3, 28:00. This is where things get really intense. Who do you think deserves sympathy here? Alexander for being humiliated? Victoria for losing everything? Or neither? Let me know in the comments. I want to hear your take. The chairman turned respectfully toward Alexander. We are ready to discuss whatever matter you wish addressed. Alexander gestured calmly toward Victoria. It concerns her. All eyes shifted. Victoria felt the weight of their stares like fire on her skin. The chairman continued, the HR director already contacted us, and action has been taken. The letter is already in her email and HR has called her too. Victoria collapsed to her knees. No, please, Mr. Ellis. Sir, I didn't know. I didn't know who he was. I didn't know. She crawled the short distance between her and Alexander and grabbed his pant leg desperately. Alexander, please, baby, please. I swear I didn't mean anything I said. It was just a joke. The devil? Yes, the devil, he used me. Please forgive me, please. He stepped back. Her hand slipped off him like water. He looked down at her the way a judge looks at a verdict he'd already accepted. You didn't know who I was because you never cared to know, he said. I was convenient, useful, good enough to fund you, support you, help you climb, but never enough to respect. She sobbed harder, clutching her chest. I'll do anything, Alexander. Anything. Just don't leave me like this. Don't ruin me. He leveled his gaze on her, unblinking. Cool. Done. You ruined yourself. The crowd murmured, shaken. Victoria shook her head violently. I'll change. I swear I'll change. Just please, please don't destroy everything I've worked for. He exhaled slowly. You didn't work for it, he said. I built every step for you. I got you into this company. I got you promoted. I fought for you behind the scenes while you mocked me in public. Her sobbing turned into screams of disbelief. No, no, please, please don't do this. Victoria grabbed his trousers again, sobbing, her tears streaking the marble floor. Alexander, please. I'm begging you. Don't leave me. Don't do this. Please. Alexander looked down at her, and this time there was no hesitation, no softness, No trace of the man who once carried her dreams on his back. He spoke sharply, clearly, like a verdict. "You'll hear from my lawyer." Victoria gasped, shaking. "Alexander, no, please." He cut her off. "And don't think you're getting a dime." Her eyes widened in horror. "No, Alexander, please don't leave me with nothing. The prenup stands." She froze. Her mouth fell open. Her voice died in her throat. But he wasn't done. He leaned just slightly closer, not for intimacy but precision. "You shot yourself in the leg the moment you kissed another man in front of me and in front of these guests." The words landed like gunfire. The crowd trembled. Victoria broke completely, collapsing into full sobs. "Alexander, please don't. Please, please, please." The board stepped aside as Alexander approached the exit. He straightened his jacket, lifted his chin, walked like the man he truly was, not the shadow she had made him. Victoria pounded the floor with her fist. "Alexander." He didn't stop. He didn't look back. The ballroom watched as the man they once overlooked walked out with absolute power and dignity. And the woman who mocked him was left on the floor, shattered beyond repair. Security moved in to escort Victoria out. She fought them at first, screaming his name, begging, pleading. But they were firm, professional, unyielding. As they lifted her to her feet, she looked around the ballroom, at the faces that once admired her, now staring with pity, judgment, and shock. Damien was nowhere to be found. He had slipped out during the chaos, abandoning her the moment her power disappeared. The chairman approached the microphone and addressed the room with calm authority. "Ladies and gentlemen, we apologize for the disruption. Please continue enjoying the evening. The matter has been handled internally." The band resumed playing. Conversation slowly returned. But no one would forget what they witnessed. Victoria was escorted out of the building she once believed she owned. And Alexander Sterling drove away, not as the broken man she tried to leave behind, but as the empire she never knew existed. Did that outcome surprise you? Or did you see it coming? And here's the deeper question. Do you think Victoria deserves a second chance? Comment below. No judgment either way. The news spread like wildfire. By the next morning, Victoria's dismissal was the talk of the entire company. Employees whispered in break rooms, texted in group chats, speculated over lunch. The official statement from HR was brief. Victoria Sterling has been terminated due to conduct violations. But everyone knew the truth. They had seen it. Some had recorded it. Victoria tried calling Alexander dozens of times. Every call went to voicemail. Every text went unanswered. She sent emails begging for mercy, for a conversation, for one more chance. Nothing. Within a week, divorce papers arrived at her door. Clean. Final. Uncontestable. The prenup she had signed years ago, back when she thought Alexander was just a struggling designer, protected everything he owned. Which, it turned out, was everything. She got nothing. No alimony. No settlement. No second chances. Her friends distanced themselves. Her social circle evaporated. Damien blocked her number the day after the ballroom incident. She moved into a small apartment, took a low-level job at a competitor firm, and lived with the weight of what she had destroyed. Meanwhile, Alexander returned to his quiet life. He continued designing, continued creating, continued living with the dignity his mother had taught him. He didn't gloat. He didn't post about it. He didn't need to. The people who mattered knew the truth. And that was enough. 2 years later, Alexander sat in his home studio, sketching a new architectural project. The windows overlooked a quiet garden, sunlight streaming through the glass. He had healed. Not by forgetting, but by understanding that some people only love what you can give them, not who you are. Victoria, on the other hand, spent those 2 years learning a lesson she wished she'd never needed. She tried reaching out one last time, a handwritten letter delivered to his office. "I'm sorry," it read. "I was wrong. I was cruel. I was blind. I don't expect forgiveness, but I hope you know that I see it now. I see what I lost." Alexander read it once, then placed it in a drawer and never looked at it again. Some apologies come too late. Some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt. Victoria eventually remarried, a kind man, humble, patient. She learned to appreciate what she once took for granted. But she never forgot the ballroom. The moment her arrogance cost her everything. And Alexander? He never remarried. He poured his energy into his work, into his art, into building a life that honored his mother's memory. He didn't need revenge to feel whole. He didn't need her apology to move forward. He had something better. Peace. So here's my final question for you. What's the biggest lesson you're taking away from this story? Is it about respect in relationships? The danger of arrogance? The power of quiet strength? I genuinely love to hear your perspective in the comments.